Paul, tell us who you are and kind of, I guess, we'll get to the beginning of when we met and folks will have a lot of questions about EQ. So let's start
Yeah,
there.
I guess that's where it all started, right? We were both in customer service. So yeah, I was gonna college for programming because I didn't know how else to get into game design way back then. And I actually applied for the guide program, but was denied for whatever reason. So then I decided to just apply to be a GM and took the flight out and was hired for that, luckily. So then I moved out to San Diego and yeah, you and I and some other great people were in the GM pit, and I was just so desperate to be a game designer. I was harassing people constantly to let me uh, do any kind of quest work or do any kind of apprentice stuff. So I was like a Jeremy's apprentice, an apprentice's apprentice for a while, um, and just I don't know, kept bugging people till they let me in on Luckland. Um, what did I start doing? I was like doing pathing, and I was doing some like I was sitting on like a folding card table in a cube with someone setting up some event in Sanctus Seru where it was like a bar fight and uh yeah, well, man, what else did we do on Luckland? Like I remember we were pitching like we had to come up with a bunch of items and we went into the conference room and pitched them at like 3 a.m. in the morning and
Oh my
had
God, that
luck
meeting.
yeah, and people were getting like real mad and riled up about stuff. I can't even remember. I can't
So
even remember. Well, I can't remember who, but I can't remember what it was about.
I'm gonna take you back and so we're, oh man, it's almost easier just to work backwards through the events you've mentioned so far, because I've actually told a lot of stories about your experiences in both customer service and getting into Luckland. Because there are these moments where I was this observer of stuff that was happening to or around Paul, or the things that you would say, and I'm not gonna lie. Hopefully, this doesn't sound weird, but I've told stories about you for whatever it's been, like 18 years or something, right? Because I was like, I worked with this guy, and and so Paul would somebody would say something stupid, or we were in customer service, and there was like we just have to deal with these just like some of the worst situations or stupidest questions, and all of us were saying stupid stuff as well. And you would have this voice where you're just like, oh my god, right? Like like it was the funniest thing to hear you just like express this sort of like vocal disappointment at the stupidity you had to deal with, and it stuck with me forever. But there were just all these little moments. So uh, you said something that I wanted to jump on though. When you were in CS, like so we both, and I think all of us from that crew, like wanted to be game design. Well, I didn't even know I wanted to be a game designer. I just knew I wanted to be on the team. I thought I was going to be an environment artist. But then I realized game design and being an apprentice to an apprentice was probably the only route in. Did you know you wanted to be a game designer though, like going into it?
Mm, yeah, I mean, ever since I was little, like in I remember in fourth grade math, I was drawing all maps, and then I later got Hero Quest, and I was writing my own modules for that. So I've always wanted to be a game designer, and it seemed like programming was the only way in before there was all these game design schools. So whenever I saw that like Jeremy Ellis was just like a designer writing quests and stuff, that's exactly what I wanted to do. So yeah, I took CS job just to get my foot in the door.
Yeah, I mean, when for me, it was I just wanted to be a part of whatever it was from the second I saw it. But then I guess I realized it because I had that same thing. Like I was always drawing maps on graph paper and always loved thumbing through the rule books. And even if I didn't have anybody to play like D&D with or whatever, there's just something about the tables and the images and all this stuff that really kind of stuck with me. And so I guess it kind of as you say that, for the first time in one of these that I've done, it kind of makes sense what I was thinking back then. But the time in CS was scary. Like, it just felt like any minute I could lose my opportunity to potentially make a game because it was just so sketchy in CS during that period.
You know, I almost got fired, at least once that I know of. I don't know if this was public knowledge, but it was really great doing CS back then because we each had our own server and we were working with a community of people, and like I would troll their message boards and I knew all uh the big guilds and the big players, and I you know I would leave myself unhidden all the time and people just could send me random tells all day, and uh because it was such a good community, I think my petition queues were really pretty low because like I could knock stuff out on the side through tells sometimes just so it doesn't have to do that. But I one time I almost got fired because I was attached to the community, and there was a guy that was um, a well-known member. They had just enforced some like really hard rules about sharing accounts and
Yeah.
stuff, and this guy he lost something because he was sharing the account with his brother or something, and I was kind of leading him in my questioning to him, like I can't remember what I said, but I didn't want him to get just straight up banned, right? Because that was the rule at the time. You share your account, you're banned. So I was like, okay, you sure you you just told me you shared your account, but that didn't really happen, right? You just lost your items, and I guess back then we had to submit our logs, and the logs got to the boss, and the boss went to even like Smed, and Smed told my boss to just fire me because I was like trying to break the rules and everything, but they gave me another chance. And so yeah, it was totally scary. Like you felt like you could lose your job any second. And it was rough because we were all, I think, super passionate about the game because EverQuest was such a force back then. Like EverQuest was life. Like I CS'd all day, I went home and played all day, and then when I was deving, I went home and played all day
Yep.
too. Yeah, so yeah, you're right about it being scary. And yeah, it was just I don't know how I could have got in again after that. I guess I could have CS somewhere else,
But it
but
wasn't
yeah, man,
there. Yeah.
it was I really look fondly back on those times though, because like you'd roll in at 2 o'clock, you'd get yourself a disgusting burrito off the lunch truck, then you'd work until dinner time and go to Carl's Jr. and come back and then work until 11, and then you'd stay and you might do a goofy naked raid with everyone else that was still there, or play some Unreal and yell at each other. Yeah, it was good times.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a lot of fun. Like, looking back, it was both super stressful all the time, and before, at least before I got on the team, the money was really tight, and then, but it was also so exciting because it was new. Everything was new. It was the first time seeing game development, and it just happened to be on like the biggest MMO that, at least in the West at the time, and um we were figuring so much shit out, and there was no game that I would rather play more.
Mhm.
When we played Unreal or whatever in the evenings, it was cool to just sort of have that thing where we're all yelling at each other and having fun. But like, yeah, like you said, there were a lot of evenings of working super late and then still going home and playing. Which the other thing that I was thinking about when we were in CS, and let me know if I remember this wrong, but weren't you the GM when the sleeper was woken?
Yeah, I woke the sleeper. It was me because they didn't. The guild was in there. They had some bards like levitating under the bridge, and they were abusing the pathing or something, so they were able to kill the warders really easily. And the devs at the time saw this, and in an effort to prevent them from waking the sleeper, they told me to go, slash kill this invisible man because the Invisible Man is listening for a shout from all the warders. And if the Invisible Man isn't there, he can't hear the shout from the warders when they die. So then he won't, in turn, spawn the sleeper. But they didn't quite think it through, because all the Invisible Man does is kill himself to trigger an event, right? So whenever he dies, he wakes the sleeper. So since I slash killed the Invisible Man, he just went ahead and triggered the sleeper. And the sleeper wasn't ready. Like, his model wasn't updated or something. So he was a giant human Doug model rampaging through the zone. And yeah, so I woke the sleeper, not some guild somewhere. I was the first. World first.
I did not remember that part of it. Those details make so much sense, because what I remember was all of us sitting trying to pretend like we weren't watching what was going on because we didn't want to get in trouble. And
Yeah.
you, like, and you know, people watching this, you got to understand, Paul's the nicest dude in the universe, and we all love Paul. And now all of a sudden, these people from the team that we've never really seen before are looming over Paul, freaking out. You could tell they weren't very happy, and they seemed unsure about what to do. And they're like debating back and forth mechanically how to stop this from happening. And Paul's just like sitting there looking terrified, like just waiting to do whatever it is they tell him to do. And I mean, if you've watched the video, I'm pretty sure one of them was Butler. I'm trying to remember the interview. So if you've watched the Jeff Butler interview on this channel, imagine that guy being behind you. He's a wild guy. And then the other guys, I could have sworn, I'll just say initials maybe JP, no, JC. Yeah. And
I don't know if he was there, but yeah.
And he's fidgety and grumpy as well. And so they're there and they're like, okay, slash kill him. And Paul does, and all hell breaks loose. And we're just like, holy shit, this is happening. And I've remembered that like evening for 20 years.
Yeah. It was nuts, because I mean, the chat's talking about, it was Conquest. We had to end up like suspending or banning like 30 or 40 people, so I was working late on that. And yeah, it was scary, right? Because like we were talking about, we all loved EverQuest, and it was a serious thing. So like, it's not just a game to us. We know it's the sleeper. It's a huge, super huge, big deal. So if something goes wrong, we don't want to see that happen. And I mean, kind of the worst thing happened probably. Instead of just, I mean, we could have summoned people out or something. Maybe that would have been better than triggering the whole event.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It definitely was. It was just one of those. It was such, I think, a shock for them that they didn't know how to properly instruct us. And yeah. And so there was that. And then that wound up being a topic, because that wound up, I mean, people still talk about it today. We don't have to go into the details, but I've had a couple of these where chat and everybody else, it's like they bring up logs. This is like a whole event, a thing in people's recollection. But then after that, you still made it on the team after all. You were put in a cubicle with, I think, one of the people involved in that. And I remember the cubicles just kind of had like another wall leaning against it. And I remember you having your desk there where the lean-to wall was. And at some point, the loose cubicle wall fell against the windows and the blinds. And we thought for sure that your cubicle mate had killed you, because he was prone to explosive outbursts. And
Yeah.
it was comical because, again, you're the nicest guy in the universe, and then you're in this situation where we're like, oh no, I hope Paul didn't just get killed.
Yeah. Yeah. I learned a lot from him, and I guess we didn't leave on great terms, but I always remember that fondly. I mean, he did have some angry outbursts. I remember they gave us some watch one year, and he was upset about something. I don't need this effing watch, and threw it in the trash. Like 30 minutes later, like Kayvon came by and like scavenged it out of the trash. Yeah. And then like people were trying to kill you, literally fight over like the price of mounts and stuff. Yeah, people were passionate. That's the best way of saying it.
I've never seen that level of passion again. That sort of
Right.
chair throwing, physically threaten each other kind of passion. On one hand,
Yeah.
means maybe we're more professional these days, but on the other hand, I've seen teams with no passion. I'm kind of like, well, the other way was kind of fun.
Yes.
So Lachlan, we it just felt like we were hammering on Lachlan as hard as we could in an effort to both get on the team, but also get it done because it was just so crazy ambitious with so little time. How much of your stuff do you remember from that?
Lachlan, not that much. Mostly Planes of Power was where the super passion went in. Lachlan was weird too because I was there as an apprentice, and then they sent us back to CS for a little while. So that was kind of a hard thing to take. But then during Planes of Power, they brought us all back, I guess. And I don't think I ever worked on another team like I did on Planes of Power, where we were all just like super into it, and we are all like we didn't even need like scheduling or anything because all right, here's your zone, go do it, and we were just so into it, we would just go do it, and then we were like, no, you got to let me have this zone because I'm the freaking king of the gnomes, so I'm doing Plane of
I was
Innovation,
about to
and
say.
so yeah, we were, and I remember that's when we got like we didn't have to do the mousetrap invisible men shouting and stuff each other anymore because we got like the C light scripting, and we scripted all kinds of junk in Planes of Power, including the progression. um yeah, I remember I was in charge of I think I did the script for like the overall, you need to go to innovation and get this, and you need to get the
Oh, the flagging
quintessence
system.
of yeah, the flag system. Yes, that was uh yeah, Planes of Power was great. I did innovation
Mm-hmm.
and nightmares, I think. There's this whole goofy hedge maze I was trying to make where you like followed a guy around and he would like kick down parts of the hedge, and yeah, I guess I remember quite a bit.
I think
It's funny.
I've been telling that story wrong for years then. Yeah, because I remember working on Nightmare as well. But I
Maybe we
also
both
I couldn't
did.
script.
Mm.
And so I was having to go to other people to script. So it could be that we worked on it together because there was also the crazy scripting to due to fake instances below the world. Remember that? And I absolutely have never said that I've scripted shit in my life. So somebody had
Oh,
to have done it.
you mean Dungeons and Aura?
No. Remember the hedge maze? There were like four of them. Four of them. There was one that was, I think, the one up top, and then we had multiple hedge mazes and multiple because before Dungeons of Norrath, we fake scripted in Planes of Power, and so it would do the 18 count or whatever it was, and then it would send you. Yeah, so Zarn in chat, he's on the team now, and so it's helpful because he's like,
That I remember the name. No, he's got it. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Maybe there was. I remember there was multiple. Like Plane of Innovation also had these little like rooms that we were going to teleport people to and have some little event in. But they actually they're probably still in the zone, but they got cut for time. So yeah, it's possible that the hedge mazes were multiple copies too.
yeah, that part I remember
Yeah, yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, they were like instances before instances.
because that was like a big experiment. Was like, can we do this? And then that really helped segue into like, all right, so can we actually do it for real instead of this fake thing that we did. So Nightmare, innovation, the
And,
overall flagging.
I did the Tower of Sully Sekiro also.
Hmm.
Yeah, I thought I was so clever. I had some giant rock monster and like I scripted him to like break into half at certain health points, and at some point there was like 8 or 16 of them around, and you just have to. I don't know. I thought that was. Look at me, I'm scripting, mom.
Yeah. I mean, it didn't necessarily take a ton to feel like it was innovative back then. It was,
Right.
just the little mechanics that created a bit of movement, or positional dynamics, or the various things firing off. You may have even been the one that did it for me, I guess, if you were in Nightmare as well. Then like Terra still at different health points was doing things, and so it's like those things wound up being possible for the first time. So that was cool. I mean, it
Yeah,
eventually led to. Go ahead.
we must have split that zone in half or something. Because I remember doing the hedge maze, and I don't remember doing Terrastool. But I had another event that was like Mujaki was like this big lich guy. I don't remember what he was for. I think you had to beat him before you could even get the Terrastool. I can't remember. So we must have split that in half.
Yeah, because I don't remember him at all. I remember the badass skeletons, like the skeletons with the cool old school like helmets and stuff. The ones on the horses, but yeah. Um, and then trying to think after Plains. I mean, Plains was such a big deal because that was also when the more experienced sort of dudes all left and went to Sigil, and it was really the bulk of the team was like customer service people.
Mm-hmm. Customer service dudes that played the game nonstop, took it super seriously, and just wanted to make something great. Yeah, I've never really experienced anything like that, and because it's just you know people coming to work on a game, and there's a certain amount of passion there. But man, I don't know. I feel like we were all just living it. We were so immersed in it.
It's hard to describe that to people sometimes, like because people ask me questions about like EQ these days, or I'll play and I don't remember shit. Like my memory of a lot of that stuff and game knowledge is nothing compared to the people that have been playing, for years and years since then. Um, but during the time, man, like it was it was just one of those situations where the bulk of the team, you could ask them anything that was in the game or anything that was something weird with the tools or some crazy thing to like, hot wire or hot rod the tools in a weird way. And people were on it. And it was like specific values out of the database just kind of were in your brain. Um, and I remember there was a lot of stuff that we were doing, even the smaller things like was it Vexar or what was the addition? There would be like little zones that would either get like a revamp or we added a zone or whatever, or when we were working on new content, like we would go looking for any information we could find either in the company's drives or on the message boards or anything to try to be as true to the lore and like consistent as possible. And it was a big deal
Yeah.
to us.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I remember just begging to do like please let me do Vexar because it just sounded like such a cool zone, and there was a bunch of random lore written for it that I thought was cool. So, I put the random guy on the shore that would barf if you wanted to hear it, but otherwise go swim under there and you can play this interesting zone. Or like with I was playing a monk at the time and I was super into to I loved Kunark lore, so all the Shackle quests didn't get finished, but they were talked about. So it was to me, it was like this giant mystery needed to be solved. So yeah, I was like, dude, I need to please on the weekend let me do the Tinonium Shackle quest so that people can have some closure on this thing. And yeah, yeah, it was it was so passionate. Like just I can't imagine now begging to do some work on any of the games I've worked on lately. But back then, it felt more like an honor to do those things. Like and like I remember the Tin Shackle quests, like even going the extra mile on it by like at I can't remember exactly what it was, but I kind of wanted to, everything's spoiled the instant it comes out. So I wanted to have some kind of like branching part. So there's a part where you need to go pick up a bunch of junk, but you could get like between 1 and 8 different versions of it. So it's all spoiled anyway. But and I don't know, it felt a little more personal. I could have just had you go through the quest line, but yeah, man, those are times.
Yeah. Yeah. And how did how did the I mean, when you look back at the vibe, it's funny. We were so passionate that my concern whenever I look back, I was like, oh, dog. My concern was that I just felt like I look back at a lot of times. I was like, man, I feel like I was just kind of an asshole. I look back. It was just like because there are so many like heated, passionate discussions about stuff, and also it was like my first real job. My only job prior to that was I was in the army for a few years and had a skateboard park for a couple of years, and then making games. And I didn't know how to communicate with people. I didn't.
Yeah, I still don't. I mean, yeah, like I mean, we all kind of, but there was a mutual respect for each other. I think, like we all were kind of assholes, but we all knew that we were fighting for what we thought right, which is always tricky in game design because it's subjective about what's good or fun, but the because of mutual respect, I don't think it mattered very much, right?
Yeah.
Like I remember having all kinds of dumb arguments, but or it was like marketing wanted to give away some like 10 slot bag, and like the entire design team was ready to go to war about it, and yeah, we were just I don't know. I don't know if it's being an asshole or it's just I think it's the Abu Satchel. Man, this guy knows everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Zarn absolutely does. It's been a huge help on a number of streams. Yeah, it was funny. Like it felt like we were going to go to war with everybody that wasn't the team over shit
Right.
constantly. Because there's constantly these ideas, and we're like, you can't do that to this game. This game is a holy vessel.
Right. If you do that, you're taking away from people's ability to trade skill a backpack, or like you're destroying the sanctity and the delicate balance of everything. I don't know. Yeah.
That was another
Yeah, I
thing that
remember.
you were passionate about too, though, right? Like you wound up doing a shitload of trade skill stuff, if I remember correctly, or
Yeah, I did, and I think that was just another thing I volunteered for again. It was like smithing used to like have pretty bad gaps between, I don't know, this is a long time ago, 100 and 200 or something skill points. So like I think it was during Dungeon of Norrath, I added a whole bunch of recipes just to kind of help fill in those gaps so people weren't having to waste a ton of money or time farming some goofy thing. I can't remember exactly what it was, but yeah, I did a bunch of tinkering recipes too, because I always thought, I don't know, I was always so pro gnome, so I really liked all the tinkering stuff. And speaking of passion, I remember someone was making, I think it was a cooking recipe. You probably know where I'm going with the phoenix eggs. I was like, you can't have phoenix eggs. That's not how phoenixes work. And like it was a shouting match. It was like fists on desks banging, and I don't know. Who cares? Maybe phoenixes have eggs. I don't think they do, but I think they were born from whatever. But at the time, it was like they don't have it. But there were phoenixes in Plane of Fire, and they've no now they're dropping eggs, and I'm gonna make a phoenix omelet. No, you can't do that, you son of a. Yeah, it was crazy.
Watching you get agitated over shit like that was amazing because you would be so serious about it's like you
Yeah,
can't
dude.
do this.
EQ is serious, man. You cannot do this. It does not work like that. Does not compute. Yeah.
So
And
how long did you stay on the team?
I left during when it started getting a little funky. What was that? Gates of Discord?
Mm.
Yeah, Gates of Discord. I went to EQ2. And I was there for a while.
What was the vibe like on EQ2 compared to EQ?
Never the team was much bigger and it didn't like I remember I was on the mechanics team, so I was just like in a room with other mechanics dudes and we hardly ever interfaced with anyone else on the team, so it just felt like a machine. It didn't feel like a I mean, I'm sure we were all passionate about it in different ways, but I don't know. We weren't ever really coming together as a team, having a certain feeling, and it was just super crunchy right from the start.
Mm.
So spending lots of time, um, like mandatory. Let's DEFCON 4. That means you need to stay 12 hours a day this week, and yeah, it just it never felt the same after that.
The
I worked on EQ2 a lot and played it a lot, but it was never the same for me anyway.
yeah, it was weird. Like after that, nothing has felt like that. You know, little period of time from customer service to essentially for me it was got pulled off EQ to be on EQ2, but I just told him I was like I can't do this. I don't want to work on this
Mm.
game. I just don't. And so wound up not like basically sitting in an office writing pitches and trying to work with people to get something made, and then got pulled back for Omens, and then did Omens. And then that was it because that was kind of the deal. I was like, I'll do Omens, but even going back, it felt like the vibe had been changed, right? Because then Rich was on EQ2 and Scott was on EQ2 and you and others had been pulled off. And it was like the guys that were still on EQ were awesome, but it was just kind of like a different vibe. And it was like, okay, I guess this period's over.
Mm.
And honestly, you know, nothing has felt like that for me since until maybe like the last year and a half, 2 years, just working on something with a group of people that are just volunteering their time when, they've got full-time jobs and families and, uh, or freelance work and all this stuff, and seeing people like just volunteer their time and work on something. It's like that same vibe again,
Mm.
maybe without as much yelling. But
Right.
yeah, so not to be morose or anything like that. Like what after
Yeah.
after EQ, or how long were you on EQ2?
Through launch and through the first expansion. Yeah. And then I think I went to work on the Dark Kingdom game for the PS3 launch title.
Mm.
Is that the timeline? I'd have to look it up.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, what was it? I can't remember the name. It was the desert themed expansion.
Oh, I wouldn't know.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Desert of
Desert of Flames.
Flames, someone in
Yep,
chat
that's
said.
it. Yep, that's right.
Thank you, Lou Diamonds.
Yeah, so after Desert of Flames, I went to yeah, work on Legends Dark Kingdom. So Untold Legends was a game they had success with on the PSP. So they wanted to recapture that on the PS3 whenever it was coming out, but um, and, and there was a bit of passion there because it was a lot of the original EQ guys actually, like Rich and um, like John Troy and Joe Russo and Higby, and so we were all trying to get stuff done and make a good game. It was just so hard. The specs for the PS3 kept changing and the launch date changed, and I never crunched as much as I did on that game. It was miserable. Like sleeping under my desk often, and like we'd get a like Claim Jumper. If anyone goes there, they have like ridiculous portions. We'd order like a cheesecake, and it'd get there for dinner at 8, and it'd be sitting on the table all night, and you'd sleep under your desk and wake up at 4 a.m. and oh man, I'm hungry. I'm gonna eat some of this cheese, or no, it was carrot cake. I'm like, it's like it's starting to go bad and get real sick, and yeah, man, that was miserable. I think I worked like between 80 and 100 hours a week with no days off for like 3 or 4 months. It
Yeah.
was ridiculous. And then the game was just average, below average.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a shame. After that launched, I needed somewhere to land. So I went back and worked on EQ2, I think, and Kingdoms of Sky and Sentinel's Fate, or no, Kingdoms of Sky for a little bit. Then went and worked at Free Realms, and then went back to EQ2 again for Sentinel's Fate, and then Planetside 2, and then uh, H1Z1.
And then where did you go? Where'd you go after SOE?
After SOE, so I was on. We started H1Z1, and it was like this cool zombie survival game, and I did all the crafting for it. So you'd have to go scavenge parts and survive, and then it originally started. Um, we were kind of talking about this idea where you could earn a pass to do the the battle royale thing on the side, but you need to play the main game, and then once in a while you could earn this ticket or whatever. Because we were just all uh, we were watching Lyric play um, like PUBG before it was PUBG, right? It was just a mod that dude did, and we're like, oh, we should just add this to our game as another mode. But then it blew up, so it became its own mode, and then eventually it separated in its own game, and the popularity of the zombie survival thing went to nothing, and um, there was like a change in ownership, and um, change in leadership multiple times, and uh, I was passionately not getting along with the new leadership very well, and had I guess you would call it a mutual separation from work, where I wanted to quit and they wanted me to go. So I pieced the f out, and so that's when Smed set up that Pixel Mage
Oh
company.
yeah.
So Pixel Mage was making a Heroes song. So it was like me, me and Steve George actually both left SOE Daybreak at the same time, and ended up at Pixel Mage, and Smed had snagged like Bill Trost and like Ryan Barker. Who else do you know? Yeah, some other folks, but it was small. It was like 10, 15 of us working on this thing. Um, and it was pretty interesting. It was on Kickstarter. Um, and it wasn't I was contracting there for like only like 3 months before the Kickstarter wasn't going well. And I guess the story that I don't know, but the story that I heard was that Smed had gone to TwitchCon and met some Twitch folks and was telling them about this studio he had. And so Amazon owns Twitch. However, it gets back to Amazon. Hey, there's this studio of like 20-year industry vets just sitting here ready to be acquired. So that's when we just gave up on it and got got acquired by Amazon essentially, and then that's where the San Diego studio came from.
Oh, cool.
And I've been working at Amazon with them since.
Yeah,
And yeah, a lot of folks you probably know, yeah, ended up up there. A lot of SOE people are working here too. Terrence Yee and Kevmo and Sanchez and yeah, all those dudes.
nice. Yeah, I mean, the crew that you guys had assembled for Pixel Mage was already rad. Like good people there, and then I know I talked with Ryan a few times in the past few years since I started doing this, and he said he was there and spoke with Akil. I think right as he was leaving to go there, and yeah, so it's it's such a cool group of people that mm, no matter what, that part of it's got to be nice. I have no idea what you guys are working on because no one will spill the beans, but at least I know there's a rad group of people there. How many years have you been there now?
It's 2016 so I started on the last day of the year 2016. So I guess I just had my like 6 year anniversary. Is that right? Yeah,
It's just became 2023. So is that 6 or 7?
maybe
Like
6. Yeah,
6.
because I started in 16. The last day of the year in 2016.
Oh, last day of the
Yes.
year. Sorry. I was thinking
Yeah.
first day of
Yeah.
the year.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Yes.
so
No, I haven't touched New World. I didn't work on that at all.
cool. Time wise, how are you looking? I know when we started this, you said you only had like an hour. I want to make sure that all.
Yeah, I'm fostering this dog that needs some shots, and I need to drive them to this place, which is about a half hour away at 2. So I can talk another little bit,
Okay, cool.
maybe
And then
10, 20 minutes.
cool. We can grab some questions as well. The jumping around a bit, going back, it feels like the kind of Luckland era. When in my memory, the like Luckland pop era is the densest. I know we got a lot of stuff done with like Legacy of Akesha and that being a quick one turnaround, and then Lost Dungeons and stuff. But really, like the bulk of my memories seem to be like customer service, Luckland, and pop for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Um, what?
Yeah, I vaguely remember Yukesha. I think I did a bunch of recipes for it. We added, I think, mapping then. So the only way to actually make the maps that we wanted to ship with the game was we had to do them ourselves, and we just like run against the corner and because it would draw as you move. What even was in Yukesha? We added like some goofy mounts.
We did the frog locks,
Yeah.
and
That
then
event was cool though.
yeah.
Man, people were either into it or super mad. Like the trolls were super mad. But it was cool that we had like changed the world a bit.
Hmm. Um, yeah, that was like it was just like crazy feature heavy because it was essentially when they came to us and like, hey, can you get something on the shelves in like 4 months? I think that's
Yeah.
when Hartzman like opened his bag of tricks and was like, here's a whole list of features that like Tech's been working on that we were going to just add to the game, but I guess we can sell them. And so yeah, and then it was quick turnaround. So it's just 5 zones. I remember having to do a lot of bartering with the character team because they were like, you can only get 3 new NPCs or something. It's like, what? How many reskins can we get then? Or it's like 5 NPCs. Is like, well, you can get 3 reskins for 1 new NPC. Like, it was the weirdest kind of logic, you know. But I guess because they didn't have to animate them or whatever, and so it's just like, cool. Let's make troll zombies and troll voodoo shaman, which was actually kind of badass. And
Yeah.
yeah.
I guess I wasn't playing as much then. So that's probably why like it doesn't feel as special anymore. Like I played a decent amount in pop, but maybe like just started getting burnt out on everything because I mean we were working a lot of hours, and I mean the passion can only burn so bright for so long.
Mm.
Yeah.
So we got Carrico in chat as well. If you haven't seen him.
What's up, character? It's been a while.
Viral Ostrich in chat asks, what's your favorite dungeon in EQ?
I wonder what's my favorite. The one I spent the most time in was probably Stupid Lower Guck because I was a monk and I camped Raster for like 50, 60 hours or something ridiculous. Like, I liked Prince Tower a lot. I like that one because I mean it's all monk related. I remember I logged on like after work in the middle of the night and there was only one group in the zone, and I had been checking like there's a dude back there named Paul Buster like way deep in the zone that you need for the monk epic. And I remember I somehow like feigned death flopped and pulled him all the way to the courtyard from all the way deep in the zone solo and begged this group to kill him and let me loot it. So it's just all kinds of goofy memories like that. I did like down there's tower a lot too. I remember leveling up a necro in there, and it was just I don't know the the goofy Bury Night guys made funny badger sounds, and there was all kinds of undead stuff to kill upstairs, and I don't know, man. I I, I really liked a lot of dungeons actually. I don't know how I could just pick one.
I could have sworn, was it like you and Ryan, or were you part of the crew that went and like redid like Droga or Nurga or
No, I think that was Barker.
was
Yeah,
it Barker? Okay.
yeah.
And
I mean, I did like Vexar quite a bit, but that's because I did the zone.
yeah. The was the Warrens, did you work on the Warrens as well? I forget.
I don't think I worked on it. I know Freeman worked on some of it, and he put the Gobblewump in there, which is the best named monster ever. It's like a gigantic tadpole, rare boss in there. Gobblewump.
And the gnome thing always made sense to me based off of how you would get agitated in customer service. The moment I saw it, I was like, this guy definitely plays a gnome. He's clearly into gnomes because I would assume that the agitation that you expressed was like the epitome of gnomish expression.
Yeah,
How did that
it's
come
like
about?
I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, man, I don't know. I remember my first day in customer service. They're like, all right, you gotta make a character. What's your character's name? And what are they? I'm like, I don't know. Gnomes are cool. So I guess there's just some innate draw towards them. I don't. Yeah, just they're just unique, right? Because no one else got to do tinkering and like make these crazy inventions, and their Achenon was just kind of weird and had all this like a robotic zoo and all kinds of weird sounds going on. I don't know. Yeah, I just liked all that stuff.
Yeah, that's a great
Yeah, what
great
character?
point.
What character said too? You feel like you're running faster because you're shorter.
I didn't start as a gnome. Like when I picked my like GM character, I picked like a dark elf because they had the cool horned helmet and shit when they're in plate,
Right.
and I was like Mr. Super Edgy Boy, and
Mm-hmm.
so the but then once I actually sat and played a gnome, it changed my life because I'm pretty tall in real life and I'm very like moody and can be a bit, I don't know, dark, I guess. But when I'm playing a gnome, I can't stop running in circles and jumping up and down and climbing people
Yeah,
and talking shit and bouncing.
yeah.
So,
Sit and stand and yeah, I don't know. They're just likable and goofy.
um,
Yeah, dwarfs were cool too because they did random somersaults sometimes.
I was gonna make sure that before you had to bail, we took some questions from chat, but also I wanted to ask you without any implicating details. We don't have to actually go beyond just yes or no, because I also don't want to necessarily be mean. But do you remember the Kakenstein incident?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Kakenstein ended up in Free Realms because it was like such an incident.
Cool.
I don't know if I want to talk about it, but
Probably not,
yeah,
but cool. Well,
yeah. There's definitely a Kakenstein in they added to Free Realms for some Halloween event, I think.
that's super immortalized. Immortalized. I'm probably going to
Yeah.
think of like a million questions I should have been asking tonight as soon as we're done here, and so I feel bad about it. Like Paul, honestly, you've been since I started doing these. I think I've asked almost everybody. Like Barker was probably the second guy to hop on here, and I was like, "What's going on with Paul? Do you think he'd be willing to come on here?" Like, does Paul like me? I don't think he likes me. Anyways, for like 2.5 years or whatever since I started doing these, or 3 years, I was
I
like,
don't know why. I do know why. It's because the one time I yelled at you because I was blaming my mouse for losing an Unreal, and you were like, "Oh, yeah, my mouse," and I was like, "Just shut up! You just shut up!" And you're like, "What?" Because like no one would say anything to you because you like you were saying you're so edgy and scary. But I don't know. I guess I earned your respect that day.
dude, you had my respect the whole time. That trust me, that's not the only time you yelled at me. I remember several. I'm not going to bring them up because if you don't remember them, then
I don't. That's
great,
the only one I remember.
perfect. I feel so much better about my life in general now. Catalog them.
uh,
Yeah, but yeah, and so ever since then, anytime Frizznik's come up, anytime I've seen like Frizznik in game, um, like yeah, I've just thought like, holy shit, it would be so rad to be able to catch up with you again. So on that note, and because I don't have any more awesome questions in my flow right now, like I said, I'll think of them later and then feel bad. Um, because it's hard not to think that it's hard to think that there's not a million more questions because I just remember that period being so dense and so awesome, like so much shit in customer service and so many random nights of like just being stressed and tired but still goofing because Derek would say some silly shit and then like the sheriff would say something and people were like busting balls, and it was such
uh,
a good time, dude. People
mhm.
in chat, if you've got questions, Zarn, you had a couple, and I was like, don't forget them. Now would be the time.
And that was crazy stuff going on. I remember the guy that ran the logs was like selling stuff on eBay, and because he ran the logs, he would just delete the logs of him creating and passing the items out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, he got
The Robe and
busted.
Purse, I think Barker named it, but I begged him to name him that because whenever I was a GM, I wore a robe, and I always told everyone that it was Frizznik's robe of tinkering. So then once I got to be a dev, I begged somebody if I put it in myself, it would not seem right. So I asked Barker to make it and put it in. So I guess I named it, but he made the item. Favorite MMO I haven't worked on. Mm, I don't know. I mean, I played a lot of WoW. I played Final Fantasy 14 at its original launch when it was super garbage. That was the worst regret of a collector's edition pre-launch event I've ever taken part of because it was so bad at launch. Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, EQ was my favorite MMO even before I started working on it. Like I remember bards were just so unique. I played a bard before I got hired, and they were just so cool because you could just run fast and twist your spells and get a mask that no one else could wear. And um, favorite. Okay, character's got to go on. Weirdest trade skill bug. Okay, so I don't condone cheating, but I don't know. I guess I can't get fired now.
No,
So
you
whenever
can't.
I was doing trade skills, there was a bug where you could the wrong item number was attached to like a smithing mold, and there was something you could do to where you could restring bows to change their stats or something. So you would take this like super cheap smithing mold, which thought it was supposed to be the item for the bow, but it was not. It was this cheap mold, and you would restring it, and then it would turn into the bow, and the bow would sell to the vendor for a lot of money. Um, so I might have used MacroQuest and let that run overnight and make a million. I wanted to see how much plat I can make. So like I automated the buying and the combining and then the selling, and I made like I don't know a bazillion plat overnight. I ended up deleting it all, but well, maybe not all, but I deleted quite a bit. But yeah, it was bananas. So that was probably the weirdest trade skill bug. Restringing a bracer to turn it into a bow. Favorite creature mob. I like the I always liked the goblins in Kunark. I don't know what it was. They're just so goofy. They had like a giant tongue, and I don't know. They're cool. Um, can I come visit again sometime? Yeah. Yeah. This is fun. Usually, I'm kind of a quiet guy, and these things make me nervous. But this has been fun. Work is work, and I have kids, so it's hard to find
Yeah.
the time. But yeah. We should figure out how to make this happen again.
Yeah. I'm never, people ask for like an interview or whatever. I'm like, I'm not comfortable. And they're like, you stream twice a week for hours. I'm like, I'm still not comfortable. So I'm glad that you feel comfortable. Favorite raid?
Um, I hate rating. Um, because I'm impatient and I hate failing. So I didn't rate a lot in EQ. Um, I was I've always been a solo MMO player. Um, because I like the challenge, but being social is difficult, I guess. But I did raid in WoW, um, in Naxxramas quite a bit. But I don't know. I don't have a favorite raid just because I don't like raids at all. Um, like banging your dick against the wall for hours, just failing over and over, and it's middle of the night, and people are getting. Yeah, I don't know. It's not my favorite. I can see why people love them and everything, but it's just not for me. Um, Favorite EQ deity? That's a great question. I don't know. I don't know. I kind of always liked Interrupt, just the whole like I don't know, maybe that goes from my personality. Like just the whole like concept of being super hateful and the incarnate of hate and um playing the hate. I guess I did if that's a raid. Yeah, I guess it is. The playing the fear and hate were always so cool because like you'd have to break in and it was so dangerous and scary. And I remember I was a monk pulling in hate and like things would like chain aggro through the wall and uh Interrupt would like death touch you from a mile away because you somehow aggro chained all the way to him. But like it was like a, oh my god, Interrupt shouted my name to the zone. It felt so awesome. So even though it was like broken and goofy, like it was also scary and awesome at the same time. Sky Shrine. I spent a lot of time in Sky Shrine actually. What was I doing in there?
Were you factioned up with them?
I must have been doing some faction work or throwing. I I remember I was playing my monk. What was I doing? I think it was just a good zone for leveling solo or something. I remember summoning hammers with that bracer. I remember leveling up a lot in um the Coldane town, like down in the mines a lot too. Yeah, Velius was fun. Like Velius came out, um, and it must have came out like near the winter time, and I was like super broke because that's when I just first got the job, living in an apartment with no heat and like a didn't even have a bed or anything, just sleeping on the floor. So like the combination of Velius being icy and cold and my apartment having no heat, like just it added more to it. Like it just made it more immersive. Like I don't know, good times.
I mean, we lived in Southern California, but that period of time, I always remember it as cold because of that expansion, for sure.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Um.
There was a question above. What would you say you're most proud of personally in EQ?
Having worked on it. Yeah, I mean I always liked the Tin Shackle quest. Just because like I don't know, I was playing XR Monk and it was like I mean, like we were saying, EverQuest wasn't just a game, right? Like everything was the lore was like mythical and magical and like it's like fucking it's like the sorry I keep cussing it's like
No, you
the
can. That's fine.
it's like Lord of the Rings, like it's the one ring, like the tin shackle meant like that much to me. It wasn't just some dumb item. It was like this mythical legendary thing. So I mean it was kind of selfish that I wanted to put it in because I wanted to do the quest and finish it and have this thing to be proud of. So yeah, the whole quest line to finish that off, I think is my favorite thing that I've done. And that was just some random thing. That wasn't part of any kind of expansion or it was just like work on this during lunch or on the weekend kind of thing.
Yeah, it was weird because we there were several people on the team that would actually like we'd go out of the way to be able to work on a thing just to have the sense of pride of like having worked on it and oh finally completed this quest that's been broken forever or you know
Yeah,
or this
exactly.
thing that's bugging us or whatever. It's like one of the things that's been hard to explain to people because a lot of people there's a huge amount of love for basically classic through Velius. And then there
Mhm.
were a lot of changes that happened in Pop, and then after Pop, you got LOI, and then Eldon with instancing, and then you know Gates, and so there's, and I definitely get it. And for me, the most magical period of time is also aside from working on Pop, it really is like playing those, you know, playing Classic and playing the first two expansions, and but the thing that I have trouble, I think, maybe convincing people of sometimes is like because when they question a decision that we made during Pop or whatever, I'm like, but you've got to understand how passionate the team was. Like there was no coming in and just say, oh, we're just going to hit the easy button or whatever. Like it was everything that was done during that period, 100% no bullshit. We thought we were doing the best thing for the game to the point of like almost getting fired or walking out when
Right.
stupid shit was brought before us.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, Planes of Power, you could like just kind of warp around the world, and that kind of made the world seem smaller. And a lot of people didn't like that, and I can see that. But also at the time, we were just trying to enable people to be able to play together more. Your friends started over here, and you started over here. How are we going to play together? well, we have to find a wizard or a druid to teleport us there, and it's super dangerous level. Oh, what if we just let people go to each other? But yeah, the shrinking of the world, I could see how that could like diminish its magnitude, right? So I've always understood why people didn't like pop as much as other expansions, but
Well, that said, I mean, there's been a pretty incredible, and maybe they're just saying it because folks are here or it's on stream or whatever. But we've had a lot of people be very supportive, optimistic of pop. It's actually been pretty nice. So some of the stuff like the plane of knowledge books and all that stuff. The other thing that I mentioned to him is like people I think often forget how empty the world was, the old world was at that point in time, and so it wasn't necessarily easy to find a wizard. But yeah, I'm
you
maintaining.
keep it says you keep omitting SOL. Did y'all hate that? I don't know. I don't know. Shadows of Lucklin was weird. Like there's like weird Grimling dudes and like naked butt Cerebrians or whatever they were called, and I don't know. It was a weird expansion. The Shithar were cool, but yeah, I don't know.
It was also
I'm not
a bit of a blur, to be honest, as well. It was like
that too. Yeah.
I'm trying to see if we're missing any big question.
If someone asked what my favorite song was, I mean, the easy answer is the title song, but also the Planes of Power song, just because I would, the Plane of Knowledge song was really chill, and like I would just sit in there and listen to that. But the answer he gave about Rivervale, I remember I was talking about trolling the message boards for my server that I was the game master of earlier. And I remember one person was a halfling and also always somehow embedded the Rivervale music in their signature. So every time you visit a web page that she had commented on, it would play the Rivervale music. So that always reminds me of happy times. So that is the right answer, Rivervale.
Cool. Well, folks, if you got any more questions, ask them now. Paul's got to wrap up, but I will, I guess especially now that I've got your Discord, I will badger you to see what I'd really want to do at some point is get like a few people on. I think I did it once where I had like 3 people, and it would be rad to be able to like get a few of you on because without a doubt you'll start talking about stuff and remember shit that it's hard to think of on your own. And
oh yeah, you just saying that reminded me of the most janky thing. Like I was thinking, you were talking about Scott Hartzman earlier, and I remember he helped me debug a thing. I was setting up the plane of knowledge transport books, and one of them was invisible, or not spawning. Why is this thing here? And I run against it, and I'm bumping it. Why is this not here? Go figure it out with him. If you set something to a pitch of 1, it makes it invisible. How the hell would you ever know that? And the reason is because they would put up these invisible walls all over the place, like in Kinos, or so you can't get up in places. And they would set the pitch to 1, and that would make the thing invisible, but the collision would still be there.
Dude,
who in their right mind made the decision to do that? That it would never come back and bite you? Like Jesus Christ.
Oh my god. I gotta.
Yes, angle by 1 degree. If you set the pitch to 1, which I just randomly did because of I remember it was in Greater Fey Dark. I set it to 1 to fit the ground. And why is this dumb thing not appearing? It's so stupid, janky.
So
It probably is using.
those of you that are watching, you just saw like Paul almost engage the engine, like almost engage drive. That last little bit of a rant. Now just imagine that being the warm up and then him throwing it into gear and going off for 20 minutes about some dipshit in
I'm
customer
getting
service.
old. The energy's not there anymore.
When the fact that Zarn actually knew that, like he immediately threw that out there. Carrico and Zarn were like, was it the pitch? Was it the -1? It would be we'd have to see at some point when we do one of these panels, Zarn, you've got to see if your overlords will allow you to participate, because the amount of stuff that you actually recall when we bring stuff up is pretty insane. But yeah, so it'd be cool to set that up sometime this year. I mean, I'm open. I haven't done an interview in like, man, I don't know. It's been forever, 6 months, a year, or something like that. So it's not like there's a big rush. We can just do it whenever you're available. Yeah. So favorite epic just came in.
Favorite epic quest or favorite like effect or how it looked?
Sure.
I don't know. Yeah.
Quest/item. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, the Rogue One pixel animation that like was way too fast to even see. I mean, the dagger did look cool. I mean, the Necro Duck staff was always goofy looking, so it's hard to respect that. The monk bubbles, like I never did get my epic for my monk, but the bubbles were always interesting. Um, and then the warrior had like some lightsabers. Couldn't you like combine it together or something, or break it apart however you wanted? Yeah. And then, I mean, the cleric one was the flail, which was cool because we didn't have a lot of weapons that like had like moving parts. So I always thought that one was cool. Favorite Fister quote?
Yes.
What? Sense heading is so stupid. Why do I have to push this button 100 times? Just set sense heading to 200 on everyone. Oh, but Fister, then dwarves won't be special because they don't start. I don't even care. Yeah, he made us change sense heading to like be 200 on everyone because we had the compass on the screen and it was always moving, and he didn't want to push the button to skill it up. And yeah, Fister. Someone asked the worst camp. I already talked about that, but it was Raster. Camping Raster and Guck was miserable. I literally spit out the orange juice I was drinking when he spawned. Man, that was miserable.
Did you play
Yeah,
PvP at all?
I didn't.
No.
Yeah, I think most people put sense heading on a movement key, but Fister wasn't savvy like that.
How much did you enjoy the pop overall storyline? Was there anything you would have changed?
Yeah, I remember how bummed I was that people super hated the ending. Because it was kind of like a princess in another castle thing. Like we had to like kind of reset it so that we didn't destroy EverQuest as a whole by like, oh, you just killed all the gods and everything. So it was like Zabuxarup popped out, and I can't remember which god popped out, but she basically reset everything. And yeah, everyone hated that. And I remember taking it really hard. So I don't know. I guess I wish there was a different way to end in something like that. I don't know how you go back after killing all the gods, but I don't know. Maybe you shouldn't have.
There is that.
Plane of War. I actually don't know anything about Plane of War. Was it Plane of War or Valor? I remember Jake was trying to put in like Ixar golems in there because he thought they look cool. Like, you can't do that. Doesn't make any sense. But they look cool. They're Ixar golems. Who's animating them? Where are they coming from? Why are they Ixar? Yeah, everything was super passionate back then.
Yeah.
Yeah, Drizzle Row. I think that's right because she was the like deity of magic, wasn't she?
There was a plane of war that was built. I forget who went through this story as well, but there was a plane of war that was built, but it was built at a slight angle.
Yeah, I remember this story. Yep.
And it wound up, because it was built at a slight angle. And I can't remember like why we couldn't. But essentially, this sounds weird. It was yeah. I don't remember if it was because it was the zone itself was at an angle, and I don't know if there was something that wound up having to do with like the props in it, and then we couldn't populate it, right, because of our pathing and other shit was all going to be weird. I don't know, but I just remember that part of the story, and yeah, and so
Wasn't it something about there was also like a bunch of buildings in there with like a bunch of books or something? And Rich was like, "Why are there books in Planes of War?" Or I don't know. I
and there
vaguely
were
remember
weapon
something.
racks everywhere. It was just like thrown
Weapon.
together with scrap props and stuff, and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
and it was just like, this isn't impressive. It's got the weird angle thing, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
It's not going in.
All right. Yeah, that sounds familiar. Yeah, it's weird how vividly I can remember this stuff, but I couldn't remember probably most of the other games.
And I can't remember a lot else happening in my life during that period. Like, I think I went to the beach in San Diego maybe 3 times in the whole time I lived there, like 6 years or whatever it was. I just remember a lot of Norrath.
Right. Carricker's actually right. I remember that too. There was the like library rooms, and there was these gigantic ballista in there for no reason. Like there's no way they could have gotten in there, and what their function is, I have no idea. But it just didn't make any sense.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'll do one more question. A bunch of quests that have never been discovered or completed. Yeah, I mean, there was some of that. But I think we went in and like tried to address some of those things. Like there was the Tin Shackle quest, and then there was also like rescuing baby Joseph Sawyer from um the Knoll dungeon, Black Burrow. Like literally, you would kill Lord Egglnub, which is Lord Bungle backwards, because Joe Russo was super into Mr. Bungle, the band. So he named that Knoll Lord Elgnub, and you would fight him, and he would drop baby Joseph Sawyer, which you could also delete. Are you sure you want to delete baby Joseph Sawyer? But then you would go turn it into the Sawyer family and get Nullbane, I think. And this was before there was Bane on weapons, but then we also went back and put Null Bane on the Null Bane. Yeah. So that one wasn't discovered for a long time, but I think we went in and re-enabled it at some point.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, dude.
Yeah, I got to split. I got to
I
take care of this
know.
dog. But yeah, this has been fun. Yeah, it's always fun catching up.
I really appreciate you. Really appreciate you taking the time to like pop on and do it. Like I said,
Oh,
when
yeah.
I've been asking about you and waiting, and then it's funny when you. I think we did like the game update for our game last month or whatever, and I saw a like from you. I was like, all right, he screwed up. He clicked like. That's a sign of life.
You're alive.
I immediately like sent you another DM like, hey Paul, so about the whole
Yeah.
catching up thing. Yeah, but this is badass. My wife has come by a couple times because she's seen me in here laughing, and so I guess I must have a glow and look of joy about the
Wow.
fact that we got to catch up. So
Yeah. Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, I always enjoyed working with you and everyone else on our team. Those were the golden team, as I like to remember it. Yeah, I wish I could capture that on the bottle again. Maybe I need to come work for you on this project you're working on.
you know where to find me. I'll always be here. I can't help you
All
pay
right.
your bills. Maybe later.
It's all right. I like to do stuff and have some fun doing it once in a while. So,
Right on.
all
So,
right.
tell you what, I'll wrap up here. I will do this thing where I awkwardly fumble at buttons to try not to like make this look horrible. And then at some point, this will be thrown up on YouTube and stuff. So, and I'll follow
Yeah.
up with you after this, and we can kind of see what's up. And
Okay.
cool.
Yep. Sounds great. Thanks,
Thanks,
everybody.
dude.
Thanks for listening to me rant.
All right, I'm gonna push this button? Yeah, and there you go. All right, so now I can actually shut this off without anything breaking. Cool, dude. I'll follow up right after this. Thanks again.